No, it bubbles just a slag.
Oh.
Would you make sure the microphone is on, please?
It is.
Okay, that tilted it back the wrong way. That's good.
That's great.
Microphone. Okay, so. Okay, so
I gotta unlock this.
light candles.
Unlock. I lost our stuff. I think I lost your stuff.
It's in Keynote.
Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu le'hodekner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who sanctified us and commanded us to kindle the lights of Sabbath. Your most holy name. Stay lit. Come on. Come on.
Oh, it went out.
Did it go out?
It did. It just this. Not till you did your whole prayer though. Okay. Where would I find the keynote thing? Oh wait, the lamp.
Or a podium stand looking thing, yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
then-
that's the one.
So you should just be able to open, just tap it.
And then you want to.
She sent it once and
I can
then.
send it. I can send it again here in a second.
All right, so go back to the general settings.
No, I can just send it and you'll just accept it in 1 second. Share.
Oh wait, I got it. I got it.
You found it. Good. Okay.
The little worm.
The little worm. That's because we are going to learn tonight about Tu B'Shvat, which is the New Year for trees.
Oh,
So I just went with the lovely little caterpillar on there.
it works.
Oh, and by the way, Eric Carl, he just died.
Oh yeah, he died this past year.
The Very Hungry Caterpillar.
And
Those
the
books, the boy
Brown
books.
Bear, Brown
Yeah,
Bear.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he just died
passed.
this week.
Oh, I didn't know
No,
that.
in 2020.
Well, so it was sometime in 2020. That's right.
Oh, I didn't
Towards the
know.
end, yeah.
Oh. Yeah, we had all those books.
Yeah, we still do. So, the Vishamru. And the people of the Sabbath shall keep the Sabbath, observing the Sabbath in every generation as a covenant for all time. It is a sign forever between me and the people of Israel, for in 6 days the Eternal made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God Shabbat stopped working and rested, and was Vayinafash, refreshed. You can sit. That's probably a better one, because otherwise you'll hit the table.
I'm just trying to be cautious with Dwayne getting over the corona.
Oh, did he? Is that what it is? All right. And so then the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Vayed. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Blessed is the name of his glorious kingdom forever and ever. V'ahavta, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you today shall be upon your heart. You shall teach them thoroughly to your children, and you shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk on the road, when you lie down, and when you rise. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be for a reminder between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. Excuse me. Michamocha. Mihi chamocha b'li Adonai. Mihi chamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osefele. Nora tehilot osefele. Who is like you, O God, among the gods that are worshipped? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, working wonders? And the very appropriate is Chaim, the tree of life. Is Chaim hi lama kazikim ba vetom sheha deharkat darshar darachehar darchei noam vekol nativoteha shalom Hashivenu Adonai elek kavena shuva chadesh chadesh yameinu chadesh yameinu kedem. It is a tree of life to those who grasp it, and its supporters are happy. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its ways are peace. Turn us, Adonai, to you, and we will return. Renew our days as of old. Adon Olam, Lord of the universe, who reigned before anything. All was made by his will, and he was acknowledged as king. And all shall end, and he shall still be all alone, and shall reign. He is, and he shall be in glory, and he is one, and there is no other to compare or join him. Without beginning, without end, and to him belongs dominion and power. He is my God, my living God. To him I flee in time of grief, and he is my miracle and my refuge, whom answers the day I shall call. To him I commit my spirit in the time of sleep and awakening. Even if my spirit leaves, God is with me, I shall not fear. And the Aaronic benediction, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine to you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance to you and give you peace. So we will do our vine. And we're going to do something special tonight.
Oh, okay. The first meeting of 2022.
But I guess I have two.
That's okay.
Okay, so what we're going to talk about tonight is a holiday called Tu B'Shvat. And since most of you joining us, and most of those that come, have been through all the major feasts or festivals, I figured we would still do those when they came, but the teaching that we would do would be the minor ones this year.
Okay.
Since we've been through all of the other ones, if you'll pass it along. And no, you don't have to drink it all. But, so, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. L'chaim. And for the bread, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lachem min haaretz. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. Mickey helped me braid today.
Oh, wow.
That's his pretty one.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm quite impressed. Oh, I'll get more, I guess.
There's more. Okay.
Wow, that's a lot.
There's plenty more.
That's a great job he did.
Mm-hmm. So,
Bread's nice.
Yeah.
and this is some that's been frozen for a month.
Good.
And I left it out on the counter, and it rose, and so All right, so Tu B'Shvat. Tu B'Shvat. I'll pass the plate here too, because we are going to use it here shortly. All right, so Tu B'Shvat means, Tu B'Shvat literally means the 15th of Shvat. Okay, Tu is an acronym for 15. The Hebrew letters also, if you remember, have number values attached to them. So Tet is 9 and Vav is 6, equals 15. Hence the Tu B'Shvat. However, that's not the only way you get to 15, right? 10 and 5, right? There's another one. Well, 10 and 5 is not used because 10 is Yud and Hey is 5. And Yud Hey is the name of God.
Oh.
Yah. So, does not get used.
Yeah.
Out of respect. So, but anyway, so Tu B'Shvat means the 15th of Shvat. Literally, that's what it says. Okay? The other title on the top here is Rosh Hashanah Le'ilinot. Okay? And it means the new year of trees. So, I don't know if you recall, but way back when, I told you that there were 4 New Years. Trees, cattle, biblical, calendar. So here we are at trees. And there are reasons, there are biblical reasons for this, which we will get to. Okay, so part of the reason that this is considered, oh, by the way, it's actually the 16th of the month, is when this festival is actually kicking off. But this is typically when, in particularly, the almond trees start to blossom. Sap starts to rise in the trees because they've soaked up all the winter rain, and stuff start to reappear. So this is the start of the growing season. So the almond trees blossoming signal spring in general, okay? And at one point this was considered a folk fest. It's not an appointed time as in Leviticus saying you will, okay? It's less that. We've attached things to it, but there are biblical backings to the celebration itself. So this is also when the temple taxes are assessed, because it's the start of the growing season. So they're going to say, okay, we expect to get this amount of whatnot from you, because they know how many cows are pregnant, and they know, yes, all that stuff is about to start kicking off, So they're going to start planting, and how much land you have, and how many trees, because one of the things is, this is also the start of the reason it's assessed here is because it's also the first fruit of trees. So you remember first fruits with Passover, okay? So biblically, in Leviticus 19, it talks about, and 26, it talks about not harvesting a tree before its 3rd birthday, to allow it time to mature. This is also where they get the 3-year mark for cutting hair for the first time. So most children don't get their hair cut. Specifically boys don't get a haircut for the first time until they're 3. Okay. So they just decided, rather than decide, well, when did we plant this one and when did we plant that one and actual birth dates, they just said everybody's tree birthday, all the trees have a birthday on Tu B'Shvat. So even if you planted it yesterday and today is Tu B'Shvat, it's now a year old. So, wow. Hey, it's the way it goes. So they don't start taking, though, you can't start harvesting the tree until it's 4. So hence having a birth date so that everybody can mark their calendars. Okay. After the second temple was destroyed, it was customary to partake of the 7 species, being wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, and dates. These are mentioned in the Bible, okay, as a dinner in celebration a Seder, sort of like Passover Seder, but now we have it here. And each one of these things, though, means something different, and I will explain those in just a second. So one of the things that also in later times came about with the reinvention of this holiday to put more religious significance to it was that, being that it's the Arbor Day, that it's actually repairing original sin when Eve took from the tree in the Garden of Eden. That each one of these things, being God created, has a divine spark, a divine attribute, okay? Referred to as Sephirot, divine attribute, in order to help balance your soul. So, and when we partake of this, we talk about we have a discussion that comes along with it. Things like Za'ar Ba'alei Chaim, the suffering of living creatures, and how they shouldn't really suffer. Ahavat Yisrael, our love of Israel. Or Bal Tashlit, to not destroy. Do not destroy. As if we needed to be told not to destroy, right? So, in 1948, when the Jews got back Israel as a land by the UN, one of the first things they did was start collective farms, okay, and plant trees. It's one of the first things they did. Collective farms in Hebrew is moshavim. Moshavim, yes. And they started to have tree planting ceremonies, okay, called Neti'at Etzim, okay? So, in order to make things fruitful and reinvigorate the land. Now, one thing, and I haven't put down further here, but I do want to mention here, along with those tree planting ceremonies, like you can send money, like they ask for money for this purpose. It's not uncommon when somebody is born or dies to plant a tree in Israel in their name. Is specifically when a boy is born, they plant a cedar tree. Or a girl is born, they plant a pine tree. Now, here's some gee whiz for you. The Bible both begins and ends with a tree. Eden in Genesis 2, tree of knowledge of good and evil, and you can eat of all the trees except. And in paradise in heaven, in Revelation 22, the one that bears 12 fruits, each in its own season. Revelation 22, 1 through 2. 1 and 2, okay? Like I said, it's not specifically mentioned as a holiday, biblically, as in you will celebrate Passover, or you will celebrate a day of rest for Rosh Hashanah, or, along those lines. However, because the land was created and vegetation was created by God in Genesis 1, 11 through 13 and verse 29, there are laws made about, even during war, when you take over the land, do not cut down the trees. Okay? When you can take the fruit from the first time. In Leviticus 19, 23 through 25, chapter 26, 3 and 4. These are just several of them. Then there's several about mercy. Again, not cutting down the trees during war. There are quite a few other ones that I don't have my other notes up. Otherwise, I would read them to you. However, you have the list of the verses being Deuteronomy 20:19, Psalm 96:12, Isaiah 55:12, and Psalm 1 through 3. And here's where I have the marriage part. Because that tree that was planted in honor of the boy and that tree that was planted in honor of the girl, boughs are cut from it and then twisted in order to form the chuppah, under which those two then get married. And this is a good example of grafting. Okay? So, it's also, you're fine. It's also a good time to assess man's place in creation. being Deuteronomy 20:19, Isaiah 45:18, and a whole list of other verses. We'll pause for a second. You know what? Let me see if I can't bring up those verses on this other thing. But there's that. And there's fruit and whatnot up there if you want to have some. Fruit and nuts. So we mentioned mercy. Deuteronomy 20:19 and 20 says, when you lay siege to a city for a long time, fighting against it in order to capture, you must not destroy its trees by putting an axe to them, because you can get food from them. You must not cut them down. Are trees of the field human to come under siege by you? But you may destroy the trees that you know do not produce food. You may cut them down and build siege works against the city until it falls. Okay, that's just practical. You're laying siege, not cut down the tree that provides some food. That's one. Let's see, what is this? We got Psalm 96. 96 and 12. Let the field and everything in it exult. Then all the trees of the forest will shout for joy before the Lord, for he is coming. That's just two. Okay? So, assessing a man's place in creation. Again, Deuteronomy 29, Isaiah 45:18, Matthew 7:16 through 20. Let's look and see what that one has. Matthew 7:16. You'll recognize them by their fruit. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes, or figs from thistles? In the same way, every good tree produces good fruit, but a bad tree produces bad fruit. And a good tree can't produce bad fruit, or a bad tree produce good fruit. Every tree that does not produce good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire, so you'll recognize them by their fruit. So these are other things. And when you talk about the fruit, though, what is something else that you think about?
Talk about good fruit and bad fruit, you're saying?
Just fruit and trees and the such.
Oh.
Sustenance, like food,
Yeah, but think New Testament. Fruit of the
vine.
Spirit. Yep. So, Revelation 22:1. Then he showed me the river of living water, sparkling like crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb, down the middle of the broad street of the city. The tree of life was on both sides of the river, bearing 12 kinds of fruit, producing its fruit every month. The leaves of the tree are for healing the nations, and there will no longer be any curse. Begins and ends with the tree, in a way. It's kind of one of those, I mean, it's there, you know. So like I said, just like with Passover, there is a Seder that comes. So there's a Haggadah, a story, a telling, and everything has its own little meanings. So we are going to not do the whole thing, but we're going to go through with some of the meanings of the fruits and whatnot, because just like if you remember when we talked about like the myrtle and the for the 4 species for the wave offering, some was good smelling but didn't produce fruit, and we were talking about you knowing me by my faith but not by my works, or I have works but no faith, that kind of thing. These also have those things, because remember, divine sparks. All right, so Tu B'Shvat. All right, so there's the 7 species, okay, that are biblical, but these also have meanings in each one of them. So the first time we light candles, just like we do for Passover, and we pour the first cup, which we did. Okay, pour yourself some more, dear, because you're going to need it. Okay, so then we say some blessings and whatnot. And so the first plate of fruit, technically, has a 1 large pit or a seed. Okay, 1 large fruit, 1 large pit or a seed.
Would that be
so
the mango?
the mango is a very good description of it. Yes. Then there is there's a second plate, fruit with many seeds. Again, everything is sampled. We drink and all of this stuff. So, where's the other thing? No, go back. All right, so, yep, here it is. All right, so the first one is, the first glass of wine is white. All right, so it symbolizes winter and the mystical dimension or emanation of God's energy infused with the creation process. That's what it represents. Okay? The first fruit is hard on the outside and soft on the inside. Okay, that's the first fruit, such as walnuts, coconut, or almonds. The hard shell symbolizes the protection that the earth gives us and reminds us to nourish the strength and healing power of our own bodies. Okay, so we have walnuts and we have coconut. Okay, then you don't have to drink it right this second, but I want you to just drop a few little drops. I put it a little too much. Don't go that much. You just want to start to change the color. There you go. There you go. This cup of wine is still mostly white with a little red mixed in to symbolize the passing of seasons and the concept of formation and birth. Okay? And it says a blessing. Go ahead, please drink. The second fruit is soft with a pit in the center. Olives, dates, peaches, apricots, symbolizing life-sustaining power that emanates from the earth. It reminds us of the spiritual and emotional strength that is within each of us. The third cup of wine, I'll just use mine, is a little more. Still not red, but it's not white anymore. Okay? It is mostly red with a little white and symbolizes once again the change of seasons and the concept of creation. Okay? The third fruit is soft throughout and completely edible, such as a fig, a grape, raisins, strawberries. This type symbolizes God's omnipresence and our own ties with the earth. Okay? Then you have a vegetarian dinner, typically.
Oh, wow.
And then a fourth cup of wine, which then is, guess what the color?
Red.
Red, all red, symbolizing fire and the idea that within all living things dwells a spark of God. Right? God lives within us, right? The fourth fruit has a tough skin on the outside, but a sweet fruit within. Mangoes, bananas, avocados, or a sabra, which is a desert pear. Symbolizing the mystery of the world and our study of the Word. We are constantly seeking to uncover her secrets and are constantly nourished by her fruits. So I have some of those things. And of course, wheat being one of the 7 species. I don't particularly care for olives. Olive oil is fine, but olives are disgusting to me. And he can't have almonds. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So we have some of the 7 species and some examples of all of those things to munch on while we discuss our love of Israel and the saving of the planet and all of that stuff. But this is what a Tu B'Shvat is, a Tu B'Shvat Seder is. Just like with a Passover Seder, you have a story and a telling. Each thing has symbolization, the bitter herbs, the salt waters, the tears, all of those things. So each one of the things means something. You have a meal, you have a discussion, and you have 4 cups of wine. However you go about it. So, one of the other things, though, that we have on here, lovely that it is that I have more Hebrew that we have learned, or we have gotten now. So, Le Ilanot is trees, forest, the arborage, okay? So the Shivat HaMinim is the 7 species. That is 7 species in Hebrew. Original sin is Tikkun Lom. Divine attributes is Sephirot. Za'ar Ba'alei Chaim is the suffering of living creatures. Ahavat Yisrael is the love of Israel. Bal Tishit, don't destroy. Moshavim is the collective farms. Natiat Etzim is tree planting ceremonies. Ma Aserot is the harvest, and Hagafen, you've heard that word before, is blessing. And all of those definitions are in your presenter notes. So there is a place where you can choose to see presenter notes, and all of those definitions for slides 14, 15, and 16, all of the definitions are in the presenter notes. And each line is a column, trying to make it easy for you to, so if you see here, you can see trees, 7 species, original sin, divine attributes.
Okay.
Oh, I did something screwy. What did I do? There we go. Okay. So, but anyway, so each line down here is one column here. I'm just trying to keep them easy. So I'm keeping a running tab of all of our lovely Hebrew here that you have with all of the definitions here. So you've learned way more than you think. Not that you've practiced all of it, but so we've talked about Tu B'Shvat, which is the 15th of Shavat on the Gregorian calendar, is the 16th of January, being the beginning of spring, where they start planting, they start looking to the harvest, growth, and all of those things. It's where they really want you to start taking into account where your place is in the creation. I mean, being spring, it being the renewal of. I think it's an interesting idea of the thought that celebrating this in some way helps repair original sin of taking the tree, taking the fruit from the tree in the garden. That's an interesting aspect. I'm not sure where to go with that one, but it's definitely something to ponder. But there are many times where things are referred to, you know, like a man being planted on both sides, you know, being planted by the river, being, you know, from Psalm and Isaiah, you know, like I just read about Revelation being the tree of life that produces fruit. When you go looking for it, you see it way more than you originally thought. That trees are the life is very centermost. Thoughts?
Well, I think I'm not sure about the whole repairing the original sin. I don't think on the surface, I don't think I buy it. But what I do buy is the idea of perspective, where we are in creation, specifically, you know, as you go back into, as you look at Genesis, you know, what are we told
Please
to do?
help yourself for some fruit if you wish.
Yeah. We're basically told, okay, be fruitful, multiply, and be good stewards. Right?
Yes.
Steward the land, and so, but with all of that, and so there's a couple of aspects to it. One, it's our job to really be stewards, shepherds of the land. Not just, you know, a lot of people think of the idea, oh, you're a shepherd, you're thinking of, you
Sheep.
know, yeah, a living animal, something that, you know, is walking around. But we're also supposed to steward the, you know, the, I don't know, produce.
You got a date
farm
over
type
here?
stuff.
The
Yeah.
other kind of date?
There's dates there. So we're also supposed to steward those things. So that's one aspect of where we are in creation. And the other aspect of where we are in creation is that we are created and
Right.
given those tasks by God.
Right.
Given that mission by God, and I think a good question to probably reflect on is, how are we at stewarding that? How are we at stewarding the land? Are we just like, okay, well, we're just going to use it all up? As long as it lasts while I'm here,
All good.
it's good enough, right? But is that real stewardship? No, I would argue it's not. So I really like that point about, you know, just taking time to take stock in where we are in the order of creation. Certainly special and unique among creation. But being special and unique means a lot of times you have a job,
Right.
Because you are special and unique.
I would agree.
To whom much is given,
Much is expected,
you know,
to quote
because we have.
Spider-Man.
Yeah. So we're given, you know, to whom much is given. So what are we given? We're given choice. We're given dominion over the entire planet. All other living things, we're given those things, but because we're given a lot, much is required of us. And so I think we should take that role seriously.
I agree. I think that if the thought is to have it for the generations, then we have to make sure that it's going to last beyond the generations.
Yeah.
So, and you can't say that we're being good stewards if it's not going to last beyond
Yeah.
ours or maybe our children.
Right.
That's not, I don't think that that's doing our job.
Well, and the other piece of it is, you know, how much are we wasting, right? You know, we you know, you go out to a restaurant. In other countries, okay, you probably, well, I don't know, Germany, they give you some pretty big portions there too. But you get these huge portions, and a lot of times you see people throw the food away. Oh, you know, let's get rid of it. Interesting. So on one end, you know, the restaurant wants you to feel like you've got your money's worth. Okay, fine, but at the same time, you know, there's people out there that
Are
don't have,
starving.
right, that aren't blessed with that place in, you know, that place in the order of things, if you will.
I think it was interesting, one of the things that, I think it was Atlanta Bread Company, tried to take their day-old bread,
Mm-hmm.
and they tried to take it to a shelter,
Mm-hmm. They wouldn't take it?
and they wouldn't take it, saying it wasn't baked for us.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
And here you've got people who are hungry with good bread.
Yeah.
They were just taking it out from that day, you know? And rather than charge us half price for it, they were giving it away for free.
Yeah.
What do you mean you're not gonna take it? And there's several companies that have started doing like the Misfits box or Imperfect Foods or whatever.
Yeah.
The stuff that the grocery stores won't take because they don't
They
look
don't
right.
look like they do in the cartoon.
Yeah.
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 They're not perfect. And so, hi Brittany, it's nice to see you on here. I hope that I've explained everything for you. If you have questions, please let me know. Either now or if you're watching it back, messaging it. I'm glad to see you. Thank you for showing up. But yeah, so there's a lot of people who are looking to lessen the food waste by, I think it's interesting that, no, it's perfectly okay that you come late. You can always watch it back in your own time. I'm posting it and I'm taking it down. You're perfectly okay. Go back and look at it all you want. We were just talking about the holiday of Tu B'Shvat, which is a minor feast, a minor holiday on the Jewish calendar, but how it fits into a life of belief in God, and how that we talked about stewardship and how God created all of these things to include us, and then us to take care of. And you know, Michael made a very good point. Are we looking introspectively? Are we doing our job, shepherding the world, the earth, the actual earth?
Probably not.
And that's been kind of the consensus, is probably not. You know, but you think about that though. When we have companies that are making money because of imperfect looking food, you know, and how that is a moneymaker, and how we even have a thing for that. But, you know, you were talking about portion sizes and leftovers, and I'm remembering there was that family in Germany that we went to synagogue with. They didn't eat leftovers. Now, I don't know that she made like 8 portions and then threw away 4. I doubt highly they did that. But you know what I'm saying? They didn't, if they were leftovers, they threw it away.
Oh, you're talking about the guy I was deployed with to Turkey?
Nope.
Not him?
Nope.
Oh,
The one,
because he didn't eat leftovers either.
the spouse that passed of cancer.
Oh, yeah. Sad.
But their family did not. They didn't eat leftovers. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't eat leftovers?
I love leftovers.
Me too.
Sometimes that's the best meal, is the smorgasbord, when everything comes out and you get a little bit of 4 or 5 different meals, depending on how big your fridge is. But you can have, you know, chicken and dumplings right next to steak and gravy. You know? It's like going to a buffet, you know, in your own house. So, yeah, I don't understand that either. I mean, I really hope then that she didn't cook beyond, you know,
Just
like
the
5
portion size, right?
servings that you know, for the 4 of them, and maybe a 5th serving just in case, you know. But I struggle greatly. Sorry.
Excuse me.
No, please. I struggle greatly with this, making sure I'm celebrating the correct biblical holidays. It's hard not to celebrate. Ooh.
Bring
Sorry.
it up on your iPad.
Stay.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to bring it up on my iPad. Hold on. Rather than risk this thing going over again.
Everybody's upside down.
Because we've done that, haven't we? That's, fun. Facebook. There you are. We kind of talked about, though, while I'm getting the rest of that up, we did talk about, or we have talked about, seeing, like reclaiming Christmas type thing and celebrating it for what it actually is. So I struggled greatly with this, making sure I'm celebrating the correct biblical holidays. It's hard not to celebrate holidays that family and friends do. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But there's still a way to do both.
Mm-hmm.
Like for years, we didn't have a Christmas tree. We had a nativity scene because we wanted the kids to. Oftentimes, I have to mesh. Yes, and that's basically what we did. We used the nativity scene as the centerpiece, which is right, and we still had the gifts, like most others did, but we wanted the children to understand that the holiday was not about the tree and the presents. Mm-hmm. We wanted them to know the reason for the season. So that was why so there's ways to go about it. I mean, you don't have to bring Easter Bunny into it to celebrate Easter.
Right.
I mean, let's be frank about it, so.
Yeah. And,
Ooh, that's a good mango.
As you were talking about earlier, is this a directed feast? No. Is it a biblical holiday? Yeah. But I guess to me the importance, much like the importance of Shabbat, is a time of reflection.
Right.
And if your time of reflection, if we look at this and we say, well, this is not a present wrapped under a tree. All you have is some fruit and stuff, and you're sitting around and you're talking about God and his provision. Oh, wait, well, which one is more valid, right? And so if there's an occasion to think about God, talk about God, think about his creation, and turn that into just not worship of the grapes or the figs or anything. No, that's wrong.
It's not about the tree.
Right. It's about the God who created the tree.
Right.
And similar to, just talking about in church a couple of weeks ago. It was Charles Spurgeon's take on Psalm 84, where he says that the sons of Korah, they were not worshiping the house of God, they were worshiping the God of the house. Mm-hmm. And so this is an opportunity not to worship the fruit, mm-hmm. but to worship the God of the fruit.
Right, and gives us the fruit.
That's right.
Thank you for reminding me, because one of the things that is commented on is that Aaron's staff that sprouted, they believe that it was, or there are those that believe that it was an almond branch.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Yep. I don't think that was up for debate.
I'm just saying that's a comment. Mm-hmm. She says that she hates Halloween even before the correct reason to do so. I can understand. So we have, this past year, I really tried to push it further in that staying away from the scary thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about being scared. It's not about that. Sometimes, yeah, is it fun to be scared? Yeah, maybe. But we're not about, it's one thing to be scared and it's one thing to be like ghouled and gore and, you know, there's a limit. And I am very much of the firm opinion that it is a candy holiday. It's Mars. Mars Candy invented it.
Like Valentine's Day. So you don't need to go out and spend thousands of dollars on purses and jewelry. Just
and Mother's Day.
And just go get a Hallmark card and maybe a box of candy.
Oh, right? Hallmark and Mars again. Think about that. St. Patty's Day, St. Valentine's Day, Halloween, Easter.
Candy.
Yeah.
It's all about the candy. Think about it. It's all about the candy and the Hallmark card.
Yeah.
What the secular holiday.
Right.
Because obviously Easter has significant religious meanings. And All Hallows Eve and All Saints Day absolutely do also
For the
have...
Latinos, don't they?
Absolutely. For the Catholics in particular, in general. It absolutely has significance. And not to take that away, but what it has become is that of the Mars holiday. The Mars Candy Company and Hallmark, depending on your holiday. So, like you said, though, use it, though, as an opportunity to speak life, speak the right thing into this, because that's one of the things that I read about this whole Tu B'Shvat Seder is, even though initially it was devised by Kabbalists and mystics and mysticism, practically cults, the reasoning behind doing it, the reasons that they attach are not bad.
Right.
There are good, very good points. And like you said, if it gives you a reason to sit down with somebody else and share the love of God, can it be evil?
Right.
It can't.
Right.
Like when we were putting up the thing in the hallway, and you were, I put up Joshua 24 on those Lexans, remember, at the house in the foyer? Well, it's 20 feet in the air. We're on a ladder, or I'm on a ladder that's 20 feet some odd tall. And Michael is very concerned because I'm up there and I've got a hand and a foot and I'm reaching over and he's all concerned that, you know, even though he's down there holding the ladder that, and it's braced up against the wall. I mean, it's solid, but, you know, I'm still 20 feet in the air, you know? And he says something about falling. And I'm like, look, we're putting the word of God on the wall. I think of all times that I could be 20 feet in the air, this is the least you have to worry about me right now, you know, because we are doing what we're doing, right? But like you said, it gives the opportunity to discuss, to study, to ponder in a different way. Sure. Like you said, this is a very good time, and it was said there, this is a very good time to assess our place and our duty to the earth itself. Are we doing our job?
Yeah.
Could we be doing better? How could we be doing better?
Right.
You know, because it wasn't just us walking in the garden.
Yeah.
Messiah walked in the garden.
Yeah.
God walked in the garden.
Yeah.
You know, and he's going to be walking in paradise, you know, heaven on earth when he comes, you know.
Yeah. So, but to the point, I agree with you, certainly. But to the point about, you know, celebrating the holidays and the biblical feasts, biblical holidays. I suppose my encouragement, and I think it's pretty solid in its thought, and that is, as you approach a holiday, as you see, these the days coming, as you see Christmas coming, as you see Easter coming, it's probably not a bad time to take stock. Okay, get out your Bible. Where does it talk about the Easter story? How does the death, burial, resurrection, and ascension of Christ, when you try to overlay the things that you plan to do, not the things that anybody else, because Hallmark's going to get their money, Cadbury and everybody, they're going to get their money. But when you overlay those things, maybe there's some room to say, okay, let's rebalance this. Let's rebalance this. How
can I do it?
Yes, absolutely. How can I rebalance Christmas to where I am closer to what the Word says as opposed to what the world says? And that's very interesting, I suppose, sort of cheeky, the difference between the Word and the world is taking the L, right?
Taking the loss.
Well, I mean, if you're going to go with the world, right?
Yeah, you're going to be on the losing side. You're right.
Yeah.
And I've said that too for as many years practically as I've been teaching the feasts in particular. So biblical feasts are in Leviticus 23. But anyway, the minus Purim, which is from Esther, it's still a biblical feast, is that they're paced out throughout the year to make you stop and take stock.
Yeah.
If you're just going to be a high holy Jew or a creaster, and the only time you show up is twice a year, it's very easy to be so far off track you feel like you can never get back on track. Whereas if you take the time throughout the year that is given, specifically if you just go with Leviticus 23, you've got three in the spring, you've got 3 in the fall, and you got 1 in the summer. You don't go more than about 3 months without supposedly being forced to stop and look up.
Right.
Because you've been walking through the forest like this, basically.
Yeah.
And it's real easy to get off the track when you're just looking like this and you're off. But if you're forced every month or two to stop and really consider, look up, where am I and what am I doing?
Yeah.
You're not going to be so far off the track that you're going to feel like you can't. It's like that person who's on the diet who's like, oh, well, I screwed up now. Let's screw the whole day,
right,
or screw the whole week, or, it happens. It happens to all of us. We've all done it.
Yeah.
But if you can stop and correct yourself before that happens, you're less likely and you're going to be more in tune for when you are stepping off, I think.
Yeah.
I think. And I think that that's why God placed them where he did.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
To give you the list. What can I give you?
Got a couple of comments coming in.
Did we have a couple of comments?
7.
7?
There's 2.
Okay. But would the general public know about these biblical events if these holidays didn't exist? I understand that it may technically be incorrect, but it serves some kind of service to promote Christianity. Maybe.
Great point.
Well, they all started biblically. They all started in the faith.
Right.
And then we got off track.
Right.
Now the thing is, like I said, we got off track, and so far off track, now we're trying to get the train back righted. It's sort of like that ship that got stuck in the canal and took weeks. Do you remember that? There was a cargo ship that got stuck in the Panama Canal, or was it the Suez Canal?
Suez.
Got stuck in the Suez Canal because it got turned. And it took forever for them to get to tug it around and get it. Weeks worth of ships stuck on both sides.
Oh, wow.
Because this ship was literally wedged in because it had gotten off track. Yeah, crazy. So Can these holidays bring them back? Yeah, if they're given the right directions and the right incentives and people with the right knowledge.
Yeah.
But we're looking at people who also want to have their ears tickled.
Yeah.
And they want to just hear what they want to hear. They want to hear that it's about the tree.
Yeah.
They want to hear that it's about the gifts. They want to hear that it's about the chocolate Easter bunny. They don't want to hear. They want rainbow and sunshine.
Yeah. Well, it's easier.
Yes, they want
It's
rainbow
more
and
palatable.
sunshine. Yes. They don't want to hear suffrage. They don't want to hear hard. They don't want to hear how is it quoted in the Bible? It'll be easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a
the
rich
to
man.
enter the kingdom of God.
Exactly, because you mean to tell me I'm going to have to give up all my wealth? Can't I just give up a little?
Did Nicodemus ask that question?
I don't
Was that-
remember.
That
I don't remember, but that's
mother's womb.
yes.
And he said,
"Yeah, I
you
remember
know,
that one."
Why
Yeah.
don't you sell all you have and give to the poor? And he was like, well, maybe let me go somewhere else.
I don't know about that. And exactly, they go off where they get sunshine and rainbows. And I think that that's part of the problem, is that as much as we preach love and understanding, and it's true, I'm not saying it's not, but as much as we do that, we're not really growing.
Oh, that's a tough one, yeah.
Yeah. So, so to the point about, at least people are being exposed. Would they hear about Christmas otherwise? Would they hear about Easter if it wasn't for Cadbury? I think there's some validity to that, and but in as much as there's validity, I think there's opportunity in that.
Yes.
And so I look at Philippians, where Paul talks about his being in chains and how that advances the gospel. And he, beginning in 12, I'll just read it. Philippians 1 and 12. Now I want you to know, brothers and sisters, that what has happened to me has actually served to advance the gospel. As a result, it has become clear throughout the whole palace guard and to everyone that I am in chains for Christ. And because of my chains, most of the brothers and sisters have become confident in the Lord and dare all the more to proclaim the gospel without fear. It is true that some preach Christ out of envy and rivalry, but others out of goodwill. The latter do so out of love, knowing that I am put here for the defense of the gospel. The former preach Christ out of selfish ambition, not sincerely, supposing they can stir up trouble for me while I am in chains. But what does it matter? The important thing is that in every way, whether from false motives or true, Christ is preached. And because of this, I rejoice. The important thing is that in every way, whether from false motives, Cadbury, Hallmark, whatever, whether from false motives or true motives, that Christ is preached. So to me, there's a call to action in that to say, okay, yeah, there's the Easter bunny, the Easter egg hunt, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But what are you, Christian, doing in order to advance the gospel despite people using that out of selfish ambition? Let's make some more money.
Right. So one of the verses that we're talking about assessing man's place in creation actually kind of follows along with this in that you're saying, okay, use what you got.
Yeah.
All right. So this being this whole harvest and idea and the fruits of thing, Matthew 13, starting in 3, he's starting a bunch of his parables here. Mm-hmm. Consider the sower that went out to sow, and some fell along the path and they got eaten, and some fell on rocky ground. So basically, we've gotten some seed sown. Mm-hmm. By Cadbury's, by whomever, and it's our job to make sure that it gets to, lands on, or whatever, or can we improve the soil that it did land on? You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that something that we can do? And it goes on. I mean, there's a lot of them. You know, it continues through. In a lot of the parables, they talk about, you know, sowing seeds and, you know, has no root and is short-lived, but the one that's sown on good ground is the one who hears and understands, who does bear fruit and yield, some 100, some 60, some 30 times what was sown. So even if Cadbury sows 100 seeds, if we can get even 30 of them.
Right,
Yep.
right.
And it may be the only time,
Yeah.
Christmas and Easter, that you can get someone to walk through the
The
church
door.
door.
That's true.
Yep.
We need to capitalize on that when we have
Absolutely.
them and make
Yep.
it count.
And if you go back to, and then to keep going with that, Psalm, which was another one in here, Psalm 1:3, he's like a tree planted beside streams of water that bears its fruit in season, whose leaf does not wither, and whatever he does prospers. So, again, we have the analogy of man and tree and prospering. So if we take what we're given and feed it with the proper water,
Yeah.
then it's going to blossom. So you're right. You're absolutely right. Whether or not we use the Cadbury cream egg and Santa, if that's the way we get into the house,
Right.
then let's use it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good.
Like you said, use the holiday
Right.
to talk.
Yeah.
And if that's all you can do, then you've done your job.
Right. Yeah. Here's why I celebrate.
This is what it
Christmas.
means
Here's
to
why-
me.
Yes. Here's why I celebrate Easter. You know. It's an opportunity to share. I think you had another comment come through.
I will check it in 1 second, but I wanted to see what this one verse was here in Matthew. The fig tree. The branch becomes tender and sprouts leaves. You know that summer is near. In the same way, when you see these things, recognize that he is near at the door. Again, more parables. Grafting in, grafting out, you know, chopping off, pruning,
Yeah.
you know, all of those things. Let me double check this.
Yeah.
It's easier to celebrate the holidays when you're a community of others celebrating the same thing. I think any mature Christian will respect these facts and won't be offended with some holidays being changed for the right reasons if it's putting God first. I agree.
Yeah, it's true.
I absolutely agree.
That is true. The challenge, as always, is okay. Well, you know, Billy and Susie, they got, you know, they did all this. They got to go sit on Santa's lap, and they went to this, and they okay. So, you know, how do you counter the cultural pressure? You know, and I think to do that, you know, as children mature, they get smarter, they're more observant, and you tell them things like, okay, 1, here's why I celebrate Christmas. 2, you know, where do all these other traditions come from? Are the traditions bad? Not necessarily. But why we celebrate it is for this reason, and we should always remember to keep that first.
Right.
You know, because otherwise it is easy to get overshadowed by, and so in one sense you're talking about an enclave. So if you've got a bunch of cloistered believers that are just like, okay, yes, we all do this all the time, it's all great. Yes, and that will work. However, it's not what we're told to do.
Right. Priscilla Schreier put it really well one time. She says, we have season tickets to the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
They live in Dallas. We have season tickets to the Cowboys. But we didn't pay all that money to see them huddle on the field.
Right.
We paid the money to see them play.
Right.
Fine. Get together, huddle, figure out what's going to happen, and strengthen each other to go and do it.
Right.
So having that enclave,
Right.
having that community of mature believers and understanding that thing is a necessity. Jeff said it the other night, having a tribe.
Yeah.
Is important because it's empowering and strengthening you as a person, as a believer, to then go out and fight the good fight.
Right.
And to be able to say to your kid, no, we're not going to have the Easter bunny because we are going to celebrate Easter in this. And this is where I think some of these kinds of feasts, especially because the Jews tend to do it around food, a meal, it forces you to come to the table and be in that location. And it uses the things on the table to tell the story and what it means biblically. Now here, this was a little, it had it, and so this is where the whole minor, major type thing comes in. Whereas Passover is a lot easier to equate, to understand in the story of. This is going to be a little more esoteric, to use a big word. But this is something that can be done with those mature, which then gives them the strength. It gives them the meat to chew on instead of just the milk.
Yeah.
It strengthens them because they know that they can use a mango or a date to tell the story, to reinforce God's the creator of all. He's always present. He's in all of us. If you can do that with the fruit on the table.
Yeah. No, absolutely right. I was thinking about the almond, right? Or not the almond because I can't eat the almond, but the walnut, right? How much of the almond, the walnut tree, can't you eat?
Right.
There's a good portion of it you can't eat. However, God provides, and the fruit of that tree is edible. It's really good. The fruit of the vine, really good. And you say, wow, there's rocks out there that God created. I shouldn't eat those, right? There's a tree out there God created. Some trees have zero fruit, right?
Right.
Although they do say you can take pine needles off of a thing and boil it and make tea or something. I don't know. Anyway, but
that was something with the willow. You couldn't. There was no fruit and no eating from the willow tree.
Right. But I just think it's amazing, as we talk about the Arbor Day or the tree New Year. You think about what trees do provide to us, what we get from, whether it's stalks of wheat or whatever it is, all those things.
The vegetation,
But
wait, before you do that, there was a I'm sorry, but she made a comment, and I wanted to address it. I agree with what you're trying to say, but I think you have it just a tad bit twisted. I'm actually labeled an extremist for celebrating them. So her comment was that sometimes you'll be labeled as an extremist even by other Christians for not celebrating these holidays. That's the part that blows my mind. So here's something for you. I don't eat pork. And
you don't?
And I had to have a whole discussion with a family member on the fact that I don't eat pork and why I don't eat pork and how God made everything clean to put in my mouth. Okay, great. I didn't say you didn't. I didn't say you couldn't.
Right.
I just said I'm not going to.
Right.
What's the problem?
Right. Yeah, each person is entitled to their personal conviction.
Exactly. But there are those, I don't put an O in God unless I'm writing scripture. It's a it's a traditional thing that started way back when in protecting the name of God. Okay? Because in Jewish tradition, anything with God's name in it actually has to be buried. So when you go to a Jewish cemetery, there will be plots that are filled with nothing but books with God's name in it. Because it's got God's name. So you cannot just throw it away. What do you do? You can't do that. You're throwing God's name away. That's just, no.
Right.
It just blew their mind. So in the Jewish tradition, so Haggadahs, all the liturgical books, the Sidors, all of those things, Bibles, if they can't be read anymore by a child, oh, by the way, they can't be, if they're not legible to a child, then they have to be buried. Okay, so because of that, the tradition came of putting the dash or an underscore, removing the O. So if you ever look at traditional Jewish writings, there are a lot of times where you will see the O removed and replaced with a dot or something other than that. It makes it not his name.
So you don't have to bury it.
You don't have
could
to
keep
bury it.
forever.
Or you could throw it away. Or you could, but it doesn't have God's name, so they don't care what you
You're
do
not
with it.
defiling it in a sense?
No, that's exactly right. So I don't. And somebody got on my case several years ago about my quote unquote abbreviating God.
Wow.
And I was like, but you don't understand what's behind it. And I didn't ask you to do it.
Right.
I just asked that I be allowed to do this. So you're right. I have been in that position where I have had I have been labeled in some way that extremist, and I have been to a point ostracized. And you're right, it does. It blows my mind.
So I think.
But you're going to have to let it.
If I'm interpreting it correctly, the comment, it sounds like you'll be labeled an extremist for not celebrating the holiday the way that has come into vogue.
Or society.
That
would
could
think.
be
That's
it, yeah.
right. That's right.
That's the way
So
I
like
interpret
I
it as
was,
well.
so for me, because I don't eat pork and they were attacking me
Right.
because everything's been made clean, of
Right.
course you can eat pork.
Which is funny, and you're absolutely right, I think. But it's funny because they're saying that you are an extremist because you don't celebrate.
Follow the herd.
Well, but more to the point, you don't celebrate, an overly world influenced version of the holiday.
Right.
You're not celebrating
The secular holiday.
the secular holiday. You're not celebrating the pagan rituals. And because you're not celebrating the pagan rituals, you are an extremist. Well, wait a minute. That doesn't make sense. So, right?
It might make the others feel uncomfortable, though.
Right.
It
right.
does.
That's true.
Because you're not following the herd, you're
Yeah.
being different, and that can be awkward and uncomfortable.
Didn't we talk about that before too? About it bringing attention and calling you into question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wonder
Because
how
then
many.
you kind of look foolish
Right.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Right, but it's making you when you have somebody sticking out, doing the right thing, regardless of who's around. Like it was Jeff talking about being an abolitionist.
Oh, right,
But
yeah,
who
yeah.
would you have been an abolitionist back in the
Right.
day?
Right.
Well, of course, everybody wants to say, "Oh, yes, of course I would," but would you really?
Right.
Who's the person that when somebody's getting bullied? Who's the person that stands in front of the person getting bullied and say, "No, this is not right," and stop it?
Right.
Yeah.
But yet we all want to be
We're
part of the group. We want to be.
We're the Monday morning abolitionists. Yeah. Yeah, I would have done it this way. Really? I don't feel like you would have. But
Yes, you're right, and that's the flesh rising up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the devil trying to keep his claws in the person that's worldly, versus
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah.
So so if that's what you meant, then you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I may have,
Yeah, that's what I took from it. Yeah.
then I will go with
Because
it.
you don't celebrate their holiday.
Yeah,
way they
their
want it.
way, yeah.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
come, how come you don't have the Easter bunny at the pulpit? Well, so there's
It's funny, I made a comment the other day, but I find it very humorous that that ham is eaten at Easter.
Oh, yeah.
Messiah being the good Jew that he was, he wouldn't have touched it with a 10-foot pole. And yet, that's what you eat to celebrate it.
Right.
Anyway, you had a verse you were going to go.
Yeah. So it just seems like over the past couple of weeks, Psalm 84 has just been coming back and back to mind. But you're talking about, the strength, the enclave, back to the idea of the enclave. So Psalm 84, starting at 4, and I'll go through, I think, 9. So blessed are those who dwell in your house. They are ever praising you. Blessed are those whose strength is in you, whose hearts are set on pilgrimage. As they pass through the valley of Baca, they make it a place of springs. So I believe the valley of Baca is something akin to the valley of tears, regret. So it's something along those lines, if I'm remembering correctly. The autumn rains also cover it with pools. They go from strength to strength. So we're on this pilgrimage. If you look at the enclave example, if you say, okay, well, I have my enclave, I have my tribe of like-minded Christians that are celebrating and worshiping correctly, celebrating God's providence correctly, and we meet up on Sundays, or we meet up on Tuesday, whatever it is. So that's one strength, right? And then the next Sunday or the next Wednesday, you're going to meet up. That's another strength. They go from strength to strength till each appears before God in Zion. So they go from strength to strength. They go from, the security and the sharpening and all that of their enclave. But back at verse 5, it says, whose hearts are set on pilgrimage. When you think of a pilgrim, they're going through. They're going on that pilgrimage through the valley of tears, through the valley of Baca, having been strengthened, and their heart is focused on the next strength that they will, where they'll meet up again, but at the same time, they're turning that valley of Baca, that valley of tears, and they make it into a place of springs. So they're taking tears and they're turning those into, something that can create fertile ground, that can do all those things. So from the Christian perspective, I would say that's like, okay, we go to church on Sunday, just using a standard format. We go to church on Sunday, we meet up, we talk about God, we worship God, and then we go to work during the week. Hard labor, whatever it is. And then the next week we're going to be back at church. What are we doing on that pilgrimage? Mm-hmm. That's our weekly pilgrimage. And so what are we doing with that? Whether it's the people that we meet, whether people we work with, what have you, and are we taking that valley of Baca, that valley of tears, and turning it into a place of springs? The thought that comes to mind there is, some will plant the seed, some will water the seed. Mm-hmm. So are you taking that valley of tears and are you watering that seed that is out there, or are you at least, are you planting and preparing the ground for God to grant the increase? So
this is mentioned. This place is only mentioned in the Bible one time. Mm-hmm. Okay, and you are right. It comes from the word bacha. Mm-hmm. It's rendered weeping in most translations, which in Hebrew bacha means to weep. Yeah. It also specifically refers to a type of weeping tree that is that drips resin or gum-like tears, such as balsam, mulberry, or aspen. Right. In 2 Samuel, Bachim is translated balsam trees. Okay. there's some thoughts of where it could actually be. And you were talking about difficult sorrow life, and this person agrees with you.
Yeah.
They begin a path of pilgrimage strengthened by God himself and remain steadfast in their hearts, grow spiritually stronger as they continually meet adversity with unshaken faith. As these sojourners find their strength in God, they are able to persevere through calamity, sorrow, and severe trials. And in the end, they find grace. Yeah. Their valley turns into springs of blessing and pools of refreshment.
Yeah.
Yes. So this person, I'm listening to you and I'm reading this, and they are right in line. So
I mean, as you think about the holidays, right? I say, okay, maybe you before the holiday, you get in touch with a tribe, a group like this, and you say, hey, what's this really about?
And how do
we as a community spread that word to the world so that, no, we're not going to be offensive about it, but at the same time, if somebody asks the question, okay, or given the opportunity, let me tell you about, why I celebrate Easter. And by the way, come on to church with me on Easter.
Right.
We have a good old time.
Right. Use the opportunity you're given.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
So I hope this was some fun and some education and some good conversation and things to ponder.
Yeah. That's good.
And, I think it was, we knew it, we've read it, but it was interesting to think again about that tree of life, which is a very common phrase, but to think about it in the way that it's in the beginning and in the end.
Mm-hmm.
You don't ever really put those two together.
No, I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah, normally, but it just so happens that this makes it,
Yeah.
oh yeah, gee whiz. Like I said, when you finally go looking for it, you find a whole lot more than you realized. Lots of fruit, lots of trees, lots of consideration. So, not that he doesn't care about everything that he created,
Yeah.
but like you said, we're supposed to shepherd. So, it's a good time to assess that as well. So, would you like to say a prayer to get us out?
Is it like a special Jewish prayer, or can I just pray?
Just pray.
Okay. You sure there's no more comments on there?
I'm pretty sure she didn't have any more. Nope.
Okay.
Still good.
All right. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to come together before you and to celebrate your creation. Help us to just take time as we go through our day and really just not only reflect on what you have created, but reflect on you and the power of your creation and our role as stewards in this world. Help us to have the heart and the strength and to prioritize the role that you have for us, whether that is making disciples or stewarding the land, some combination of all those, taking care of children, taking care of widows and orphans. Just help us to honor that role that you've given us, and we just look so forward to that bookend of eternity where we are fellowshipping with you perpetually in the new Garden of Eden. In Jesus' name.
Thank you for joining us, and if you have any more questions, please let me know, and I will leave this posted. So if you didn't get to watch it in the beginning or caught us partway through, it'll still be there. Okay?
Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom.